Your soulmate is crying out, "Please open this before it's too late." My beloved child. Your soulmate is crying out to you at this very moment, but not with words you can hear. They have carried a truth so heavy that it has stolen their sleep, filled their quiet moments with regret, and left them wondering if they have already waited too long. Somewhere between hope and fear, they made one final attempt to reach your heart before everything changes forever. That is why you found this message today. It was never meant to be discovered by accident. There is something hidden beneath the silence you've both been living through, and once you uncover it, you'll realize the distance between you was never the real problem. The real danger has always been the secret neither of you dared to face. Don't skip. The next few moments may reveal why every strange feeling you've had lately refuses to leave you alone. For longer than you know, your soulmate has replayed the same memory over and over, searching for the exact moment everything slipped away. They remember a conversation that ended too soon. A chance they should have taken. A confession they buried because fear spoke louder than love. But something unexpected has happened. The wall they built to protect themselves has begun to crack, and every passing day makes it harder to pretend they no longer care. They are beginning to understand that silence has a price, and they are terrified that price will be losing you forever. Yet there is another piece of this story they have hidden from everyone, even from themselves. It explains why they disappeared when they wanted nothing more than to stay. Stay till the end, because that missing piece changes everything you think you know about this connection. Now imagine your soulmate standing at the edge of the biggest decision of their life. One path asks them to keep pretending they have moved on. The other demands that they risk rejection just to tell you the truth they have carried for far too long. Every heartbeat pushes them closer to choosing, but time is running out in ways they never expected. Someone else has begun influencing their future, creating pressure that grows stronger with each passing day. They are fighting against expectations, fear, and the belief that they may have already missed their only chance. But before they make a choice they can never undo, they desperately hope one final message reaches you. Because hidden inside that message is a confession so unexpected, so deeply personal, that if it arrives even a little too late, both of your lives could change in ways neither of you is prepared for. There is something your soulmate has never admitted out loud, not because the feeling was weak, but because it became too overwhelming to explain. Every time they imagined standing in front of you, their heart whispered one story while their fear screamed another. So they chose distance, believing it would protect both of you. Instead, it became the very thing that haunted them. The silence you experienced was never empty. It was filled with unfinished words, unsent messages, and countless moments when they almost reached out before convincing themselves you deserved someone braver. But recently, something shifted. A single unexpected event forced them to confront the truth they had been avoiding, and now they realize they can no longer hide behind yesterday. The question is, what happened that changed everything overnight? The answer isn't what most people would expect. It wasn't a grand sign or a dramatic coincidence. It was something much quieter, and somehow far more powerful. They came across a reminder of you. A place, a song, a familiar scent, or perhaps a simple object that instantly carried them back to the happiest version of themselves. In that moment, every excuse they had carefully built over time collapsed. They finally understood that the life they had been trying to create without you never felt complete. Yet just as hope returned, another obstacle appeared. Someone close to them began encouraging a future that doesn't include you, insisting it was the safer choice. Your soulmate smiled on the outside, but inside, they were breaking apart. Don't look away now, because the decision they're being pushed toward could arrive much sooner than either of you expected. What makes this even more heartbreaking is that your soulmate believes you may have already given up. They replay every missed opportunity, wondering if you've closed the door forever. They tell themselves that perhaps you found peace without them, even though every part of their heart hopes the opposite is true. That uncertainty is becoming unbearable, and it's why they're standing on the edge of a choice they cannot reverse. If they remain silent, they may lose you forever. If they speak, they risk exposing every fear they've hidden for so long. Yet there is one final truth they haven't revealed. A truth connected to the promise they made long before either of you drifted apart. Once that promise comes to light, you'll understand why this isn't simply a love story. It's the moment that will decide whether two paths finally become one or disappear from each other forever. Some promises are never spoken aloud, yet they shape an entire lifetime. Your soulmate has carried one of those promises deep within their heart, returning to it whenever the world convinced them to let go. It wasn't a promise made in a perfect moment. It was born during uncertainty, when they silently decided that if the opportunity ever came again, they would never allow fear to choose for them. But keeping that promise has become harder than they imagined. Every passing day feels like a countdown they cannot stop, and every missed chance makes them wonder if fate is quietly closing the door. Stay till the end, because the next truth explains why they believe this moment was destined to find you. Over the last few days, your soulmate has started noticing something impossible to ignore. Familiar memories keep appearing without warning. Faces remind them of you. Random conversations echo words you once shared. Even ordinary moments seem to carry your presence, as though life itself refuses to let your connection fade into the background. At first, they dismissed it as coincidence. Then it happened again. And again. Eventually, they stopped asking why it kept happening and started asking what they were supposed to do about it. That's when a difficult realization settled over them. They have spent so much time protecting themselves from heartbreak that they accidentally protected themselves from happiness too. Now they fear the window to make things right is growing smaller with every sunrise. But there is one final obstacle standing between your soulmate and the truth they've wanted to tell you all along. It isn't another person. It isn't distance. It isn't even time. It's the belief that after everything that's happened, they may no longer deserve a place in your heart. That single thought has kept their hand from reaching out more times than they can count. Yet tonight, something inside them refuses to stay silent any longer. They have begun preparing the words they've hidden for so long, knowing those words could either heal what was broken or end the story forever. And the first sentence of that message is so unexpected, so deeply emotional, that once you hear it, nothing about this journey will feel the same again. The first sentence they wrote wasn't a declaration of love. It wasn't an apology either. It was a quiet confession that had been trapped inside their heart for far too long. I never truly left you. Those words remained on the page as tears blurred the ink, because for the first time, they stopped pretending they had all the answers. They admitted that every attempt to move forward felt incomplete, as though an invisible part of their life had been left behind. The stronger they tried to appear, the more exhausted they became. Now they understand that real courage isn't hiding pain. It's allowing someone to see it. Don't skip, because the next part of their message reveals the one memory they could never erase. Among every moment they shared with you, one continues to return with remarkable clarity. It wasn't the biggest celebration or the happiest day. It was an ordinary moment that seemed insignificant at the time. A glance that lasted only seconds. A smile exchanged without explanation. A goodbye that neither of you realized would become so important. Your soulmate has replayed that memory countless times, wondering if that was the exact moment they should have spoken the truth instead of walking away. Since then, they've imagined hundreds of different endings, but every version leads back to the same question: if one honest conversation had happened that day, would everything be different now? That question has followed them like a shadow, refusing to let them rest. As they stared at the unfinished message one last time, their hand hovered over a decision that could change everything. Send it, or let silence win forever. Their heart urged them forward, but fear whispered that they might arrive too late. Then something unexpected happened. Before they could decide, they discovered a piece of information they never saw coming, something that made them believe your lives were about to cross paths much sooner than either of you expected. Suddenly, this was no longer just about confessing hidden feelings. It became a race against a moment that neither of you can afford to miss, and what they uncovered next could alter the future of this story forever. The discovery didn't bring your soulmate peace. It brought urgency. For the first time in what felt like forever, they realized life was quietly arranging one final opportunity for your paths to cross. Not weeks from now. Not someday in the distant future. Soon. Close enough that they could almost feel it. But instead of relief, an unexpected fear settled over them. What if destiny opened the door, and they were too afraid to walk through it? Every excuse that once seemed convincing suddenly sounded empty. Every reason to stay silent felt smaller than the regret of never knowing what could have been. Something huge is waiting for you, because the next choice they make will reveal the depth of everything they've been hiding. That night, they unfolded an old letter they had never intended anyone else to read. It wasn't addressed to you, yet every sentence carried your presence. Inside were the emotions they had buried beneath years of restraint, the nights they wished they had called, the mornings they wondered if you were thinking of them too, and the quiet hope that somehow your story wasn't over. Reading those words forced them to confront a painful truth. They hadn't been waiting for the perfect moment. They had been waiting for permission to believe they were still worthy of love. And suddenly, they understood that permission would never come from someone else. It had to come from within. That realization changed the entire direction of their heart. As dawn approached, your soulmate made a decision they could no longer postpone. They would stop chasing certainty and start choosing honesty, no matter the outcome. Yet just as they gathered the courage to take the first step, one final obstacle appeared, an unexpected revelation that connected your past in a way neither of you had ever recognized before. It explained why certain moments felt impossible to forget, why familiar emotions kept returning without warning, and why this connection refused to disappear despite every attempt to leave it behind. But the most astonishing part wasn't the revelation itself. It was what your soulmate decided to do immediately after learning it, because that single decision is about to place both of your futures on a path that cannot be undone. Without telling anyone, your soulmate quietly stepped away from the life they had been hiding behind. The routines that once distracted them no longer felt important. The endless reasons to wait suddenly lost their power. They realized that every day spent avoiding the truth only made the distance between your hearts feel heavier. So they made a promise to themselves: no more pretending, no more running, and no more allowing fear to write the ending of a story that still felt unfinished. Yet even with that newfound resolve, one question refused to leave their mind: if they finally stood before you with nothing left to hide, would you recognize the person they had become, or only remember the one who walked away? Stay till the end, because the answer begins to reveal itself in the most unexpected way. As they prepared for what they believed would be their final chance, small details started falling into place with uncanny precision. A forgotten photograph resurfaced. An old conversation suddenly made perfect sense. Even the moments they once dismissed as meaningless began connecting like pieces of a puzzle that had been scattered for years. Your soulmate could no longer ignore the pattern. Every memory seemed to be leading toward this exact moment, as though life had been patiently preparing both of you for a meeting neither of you fully understood. Their heartbeat carried equal parts hope and fear. They weren't afraid of hearing no. They were afraid of arriving one moment too late, after your heart had already chosen a different path. Then, just as they reached for the message they had rewritten countless times, they noticed something they had overlooked from the very beginning. Hidden within every memory, every regret, and every silent goodbye was the same unmistakable truth: your story had never been asking for perfect timing, it had been asking for courage. That realization changed everything. The tears stopped. The hesitation faded. For the first time in years, they smiled through the uncertainty because they finally knew what they had to do next. But before that message reaches you, before a single word is spoken, one final secret from their heart must be uncovered, and once it is revealed, you'll understand why they believe this could be the moment that changes both of your lives forever. The final secret wasn't hidden in a journal or locked inside an old memory. It lived in the question your soulmate had been too afraid to ask themselves: what if I've been loved all along, and I was simply too frightened to believe it? That thought stayed with them through every sleepless night until it became impossible to ignore. They realized they had spent so much time preparing for disappointment that they never prepared for the possibility of hope. In trying to protect their heart, they had also closed the door on the very future they longed for. But now, that door was beginning to open, and they knew they had only one chance to step through it. Don't skip, because what happened next erased the last excuse they had left. Just as they were ready to send the message, they paused one final time. Instead of reading it again, they read it as if they were you. Every sentence carried honesty instead of perfection. Every line admitted fear without hiding behind it. There were no dramatic promises, no impossible guarantees. Only the simple truth that they had never stopped caring, even when silence made it seem otherwise. And something remarkable happened in that quiet moment. The burden they had carried for so long began to lift. They finally understood that love isn't measured by flawless timing or perfect words. It's measured by the courage to be completely genuine when everything inside you wants to retreat. That realization gave them the strength they had been searching for all this time. As the sun slowly rose, your soulmate took a deep breath and reached the point of no return. Their finger hovered over the final decision, knowing that once this message was released, there would be no taking it back. Every heartbeat echoed the same silent plea, "Let this reach the one person who still holds the missing piece of my heart." Yet in that very instant, something completely unexpected appeared before them, something that made them stop before pressing send. It wasn't another obstacle. It was a sign that the truth they had been chasing was even greater than they had imagined, and what they discovered in the next moment would force them to choose between the life they had planned and the life their heart had been waiting for all along. The sign wasn't loud. It didn't arrive with dramatic certainty or impossible spectacle. It came through a quiet realization that settled deep within your soulmate's heart. They finally understood that every delay, every unanswered question, and every painful goodbye had been shaping them into someone capable of loving without fear. For the first time, they stopped asking, "Why did this happen?" and began asking, "What am I meant to do now?" The answer came almost immediately. Stop hiding. Stop waiting. Stop believing that another tomorrow would always exist. They knew this moment demanded action, because if they let it slip away, the regret would follow them for the rest of their life. Stay till the end, because the next discovery reveals why this decision feels different from every other one they've ever made. As they gathered everything they wanted to tell you, one final memory surfaced, one they had buried beneath years of doubt. It was the moment they first realized your presence brought them a kind of peace they had never been able to explain. They remembered how the world seemed quieter around you, how ordinary conversation somehow carried extraordinary meaning, and how even silence never felt empty. Looking back now, they recognized that they hadn't fallen in love in a single instant. It had happened gradually, through countless small moments they failed to appreciate until they were gone. That realization broke something inside them, but it also healed something they thought was beyond repair. They no longer wanted the perfect words. They wanted the honest ones. And honesty, they discovered, is far more powerful than perfection. With steady hands and an unguarded heart, your soulmate finally completed the message they had rewritten more times than they could remember. It contained no blame, no expectations, and no attempt to erase the past. It carried only one sincere hope. That if even the smallest part of your heart still remembered what once connected you, perhaps there was still time to begin again. But just before those words could find their way to you, an unexpected truth emerged from a place neither of you had considered. It revealed that this journey was never only about finding each other again. It was about... For years, they believed the past had already written the ending. Now they could see something entirely different. The ending had never been written at all. Every fear, every misunderstanding, and every silent goodbye had only been chapters leading to this single decision. They finally understood that the greatest mistake wasn't loving too deeply, it was believing that hope had an expiration date. Something huge is waiting for you, because what your soulmate chose next changed the meaning of every moment that came before. Instead of chasing the future, they returned to the truth they had been avoiding from the very beginning. They stopped rehearsing speeches. They stopped imagining every possible rejection. They let